Call the January meeting of the Board of Adjustment and Appeals to order. Staff will have a roll call. Is it you or?
Ken, yeah. Ken Visker.
Speaking.
Dana Chomey.
Yep.
Ryan Van Gorp.
Yes.
Larry Hafner.
Here.
Ken Anderson.
Here. We have a agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Everybody happy with it?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Next, we'll review the minutes. We've been provided with the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read them over?
I move we approve the
Motion
minutes.
to accept.
Second.
We have a motion made and second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 So opposed, and nay. Guidelines, I know that we need the guidelines. I don't think we gotta have too many people making long speeches. Aaron, you wanna read the information on the first hearing?
Well, prior to that,
Elect the chair.
we need to go through the process of electing officers for 2019. So I guess with that said, a member could make a motion. We need to elect a chair and a vice chair. Anyone could make a motion for why don't we handle the chair first?
I'll make a motion to elect Larry Hafner.
I'll second that.
Do you do this? Or?
I guess I do. Motion's been made and seconded to elect Larry Hafner the chair for 2019. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Larry Hafner will be the chair for 2019. And Larry, I'll turn over the vice chair election to you.
All right, I don't have anything in front of me here with that. We'll need a vice chair as well. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Who's it right now?
I believe, Ken, is it you, Dana? Dana. okay.
Dana or Kenny, this year, I don't remember which one. Dana?
I'll nominate Dana for vice chair.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded to nominate Dana as the vice chair. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hearing no opposed, motion carries.
Congratulations.
It was a hard, what was it?
Hard-fought battle.
Hard
Hard-fought battle,
Yeah, boy, put a lot of time in. Paid though.
I've got one other item before the hearings that I promised Andy I would cover, and I'm exemplifying what not to do right now, but it is microphone etiquette. What we need to do is, the microphones are not only for the benefit of the folks in attendance here this evening, but they're also needed to pick up the conversation on the recordings. So what you want to do is you want to err on the side of having the microphone too close rather than further away. He said, really, get in there, and if it's tickling your nose, don't back away from it until it tickles your nose.
Can you all hear me? All right, good. Are we ready to go with our first request?
I'll read the hearing announcement. Please take notice that an application was received from the following persons for a variance of setback requirements. The applicants are Jacob and Aaron Lampert. They reside in Caledonia Township, and they're requesting a variance of 24 feet to meet the required 65-foot setback from the center line of a township road to build an addition on an existing house. A hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room, Caledonia, Minnesota, at 6 p.m. on Thursday, January 24th. And this was advertised on January 9th.
All right. At this point, I would entertain a motion to recess the Board of Adjustment meeting and open a public hearing. Open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to recess the Board of Adjustment and open the public hearing. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay. Do any of the members wish to recuse themselves at this time for a conflict of interest concerning this request? Any members of the board have a conflict with this that you are aware of?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Staff will present the staff report.
Okay. The applicant's property is located in the Green Acres subdivision just south of Caledonia. It's a smaller lot. There's not a lot of good options for an addition on the current structure in any direction without some sort of a variance of some type. What they are proposing to do is convert the existing bedroom or garage into a bedroom and then add an additional space that would be a new garage and a smaller common area atop what is now the driveway. This would put them closer than the setback requirement allows for to the township road.
Aaron, what is the setback normally requirement? It's not 65 feet.
The setback off a road, it depends on the type of road. So 65 feet is the minimum requirement for a township road. From the center line, yes.
Center line.
And if you look at these, if you look in your staff reports there, you'll see that these are approximate measurements that are on these images. But on page 1, it shows that it's approximately 69 feet is what we're estimating it to be off the center line now, and that's not unique from what you find typically in that subdivision. That they're all very near what the minimum requirement is, and I think that's probably a typical scenario for most platted subdivisions where they're not going to add a lot of extra area for an unknown reason.
If I remember from what I read, that's consistent. That's what you're saying. That's
Yep.
consistent for the residents.
Yeah, the existing setback that they currently have for their house is pretty consistent with other homes in that area. The lot size is also fairly consistent. You may have recall from your staff report that the inconsistency that can be identified there is the size of the home, and that this is amongst the homes that we looked at. There's an island there that the road surrounds. It's the smallest home on that island, and without having specifically looked at every house in the subdivision, I feel comfortable estimating that it's amongst the smaller homes in the entire Green Acres, and there's a few subdivisions out there, but it's amongst the smaller homes in that community. So that would be how it perhaps is differentiated from the other parcels, and that could be what potentially makes it unique.
And there's an exception that was created for the lots in that subdivision. I'm reading on, I was not sure of that when I read that before. On page 3, right there below the illustration.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
says
Give me a.
exception for the lots created prior to the adoption of
Oh,
modern rules exist that permits the building on lots with an area of 22,000 square feet
Sure.
or more.
Yeah, so this subdivision was done in 1973, and in 1973, the minimum lot area in a residential district was 22,000 square feet. Since that time, it's been changed. Now it is 1 acre, but there's a specific exemption in the residential district section that allows an exception for a lot created under prior rules. So, a lot created prior to the adoption of this ordinance, and it allows it to be developed if it is 22,000 square feet or larger. In this case, this lot is 27,000 square feet. So this would probably also qualify for as a non-conforming use, and that it likely checks all those boxes. However, that review was not necessary because we have this specific exemption here that allows it to be developed without falling back on the non-conforming status.
Well, then that says to me they recognize that difficulty already.
Right.
Some board did.
Beyond that, the slopes are gradual on this site. There's no water features. It's not atypical from what you'd find in a common platted subdivision where they include as buildable lots or developable lots only lots that are suitable. So it would exclude things like floodplain and other things of that nature. I'm open to any other questions you might have stemming from your
If this
your
were in
staff
the
reports.
in the city of Caledonia, what would be the normal setback for? Is that different than the township road, or is it the same?
I don't know the answer. I would speculate that it's less, but I don't know that for certain.
Are the
Yeah.
petitioners here?
Bob, you had a? 30 feet. 30 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. That was my biggest.
Are the petitioners here?
Yeah, they're
Come up front. Same
I don't remember.
applies to you with the microphones.
You mentioned a garage, is it? I don't remember a garage.
If you look on page 2, on the lower image there, that is an approximation of what they're
No
proposing.
existing
They
garage.
do have a,
No,
Yeah.
that's not.
Apparently a
they
garage
have a
now.
garage
is
already.
being-
Yeah, I drove out there.
Yeah, that's true, I didn't see
The
it.
existing garage is under the main part of the building, right?
Yes,
Oh, it's under it?
it's a ranch.
Right.
Ranch,
With
with
the-
a garage
with the side
attached on the end.
Driveway comes in, that's the garage is right. You drive right in.
Right, I just,
It's
right.
Yeah, I don't have an image of the front of the
Okay,
house
that's
in
right.
here.
I
but,
missed it, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, we're a family of 4, and we have looked at buying other houses, but the neighborhood is a beautiful neighborhood. Everybody's nice out there. We'd rather stay there, and for us to continue, as a it's just, we need
Yeah.
a little more space.
Yep.
It's- Yeah.
That's understandable.
Are the you had a chance to look at the report that
Yes.
mailed out?
Yeah.
The square footage numbers that I'm including in that are just pulled from the county tax records. Are those accurate numbers for what you have as heated space or living space?
Yeah, nothing has been, that's pretty much, when the house was built in 73, that's pretty much it.
Is-
Nothing's
Is that the entire basement finished then, or is that just a partial finished
been
basement?
partial finish, yes.
It's
Okay.
just like a living room.
Yeah, it's just a family room, so half the basement is finished, the other half is
Storage.
storage.
Okay. Other things I guess I'll point out, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but you see I've included some estimates of what the sight lines would be with the garage there. I see we have a township representative here too. They would be the road authority. We didn't receive any comments from the township on the application, and they would be the ones who have jurisdiction over that road. But coming from the non-traffic engineer background that I bring here, the illustrations seem to make it look like it wouldn't create any sort of traffic hazard.
I think it makes a difference too that they're on the inside of the corner versus the
Oh,
outside.
yeah, it sure does.
I don't know how fast the
You
traffic
wouldn't,
is.
you wouldn't, on a straight block, you wouldn't allow building in front of, I was on planning zoning in the city of Spring Grove, and you don't want additions out towards the street to block the sight line of someone else's house.
Yeah,
But being on a
yeah.
corner lot, to me, that looks, that's their farthest point away from the road, so. But I
Well-
think that if it was a straight line from someone else's house, I don't think we wanna give out too many variances, or too much, anyway.
Well, and I'm thinking in slippery roads,
Yeah.
going off the road, it's not gonna come on the inside, it's gonna be on the
No,
outside.
they got a good lot for that.
Yeah,
In terms of negative impacts on neighboring houses,
Yeah.
you know, we didn't receive any comments for or against it, but I guess I'd point to
Well,
the
and
not
this is-
against it from
This is the
neighbors.
first one to have an addition in front. I would assume somebody wouldn't complain if they didn't know what it was gonna look like till somebody did put a big old garage in front of their front lawn, then they would, I guarantee there'd be someone complaining.
yeah.
Sure. Have you all had the opportunity to speak with any of your neighbors about this proposal?
Yes, I spoke to all my neighbors and none of them had any concern.
Good job.
That's good.
Yep. Do we have any comments from the public? If you do, now is the time to bring it up.
The township is okay with what he wants to do with it. You can drive around the corner and there's plenty of visibility.
All right, good, thanks. Does the applicants have anything additional you want to say?
We really
Well,
want a variance.
You want to respond to all the comments from the public?
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, we've struggled a little bit trying to figure out what we wanna do, and I guess this is really what we would like to do. We'd rather stay where we're at and accommodate so we can,
Stay there.
yeah, yeah. So,
Do we have any other comments from the board?
I move we close the public hearing.
And open and reconvene the Board of Adjustment.
Yes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to conclude the public meeting and reconvene the Board of Adjustment. All in favor, say aye.
Hey.
Opposed, say same, same signs. Okay, for the record, has any member visited the site?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have comments regarding that?
I've already made my comment.
All right.
I concur. This is the smallest home in the subdivision, and this would be an improvement. I don't see an issue.
I guess we can ask some more questions if we have any, but I don't think there is. If there's no discussion, we'll call for the answers to the criteria for granting the variance.
Okay, I'll go through the requirements, and you'll be provided with two an analysis of the requirement, one from the applicant and then one from staff, and they may overlap a bit. After I do that, I'll call for a roll call vote. If you have a reason you'd like to state to support your vote, please do, and I'd be looking for at least one person to support their vote with a reason on the majority opinion. Requirement number 1, the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. The applicants indicated that having the addition at the front of our property is the most logical, considering how our house is located on our lot, where the septic system is located, and adjacent properties. And staff analysis is that as part of the residential development policies included in the comprehensive plan, the county is to encourage the rehabilitation of older homes. Ken Anderson?
Yes, I'll agree, and I think their stated reasoning is as much as anything I agree with.
And Larry Hafner?
I agree. Variance is in harmony. I like their process of staying where they are, adding to their house and keeping the neighborhood up.
Dana,
Yes, I agree.
Brian,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Visker. Number 2, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls, and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. The applicant indicated yes, with the addition we want to do puts us over the setback from the road, considering the length of our driveway. And the staff analysis is the lot cannot accommodate an addition without a variance of some sort. Generally speaking, modern homes tend to be larger than those built in the 1970s, thus a request to add onto a smaller home from that era is reasonable. Larry Hafner.
I agree with staff analysis. Yeah, I agree that that's the only thing they can do.
Dana?
Yeah, I agree with it.
Brian?
Yes.
Ken Visker?
Yes.
Ken Anderson?
Yes.
Number 3, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The applicant indicated yes, it's just how our lot is located and where we can accommodate the addition. Staff analysis is that the lot is typical among those found in the Green Acres subdivision. However, the house is smaller than a typical house in this neighborhood, and it represents a circumstance unique to the property. Looking at the houses located in the island upon which the applicant's home is located, the square footage ranges from 1,248 square feet to 2,783 square feet, with the applicant's house being the smallest. The average square footage of these neighboring homes is 2,136 square feet. I've got some figures here. I'm just making sure I'm reading that. Okay. Dana.
Yeah, because it's a smaller house and it's a corner lot, the variance just makes sense to have on this, allow them to have a buildable lot.
Brian.
Yes, I agree.
Ken Visker.
This is an improvement to the existing home and also to the neighborhood, and I agree.
Ken Anderson.
I agree.
Larry.
I agree.
Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. The applicant indicated, I think they indicated no here, and they say as it is just 7 feet over the setback, we are hoping for a variance so we can have our desired addition to accommodate our family and our needs. And I don't believe they perhaps conceptualize that finding in the correct way. Let's look at the staff analysis in this case. And it is that an addition of the size proposed would require a variance in configuration on the parcel except to the east of the existing home. Placing an addition to the east of the house is not reasonable for multiple reasons. First, the existing septic field is located in this area. Second, there may be areas of undisturbed soils east of the house, and preserving them for a future replacement septic system is prudent. Third, the addition being proposed is a garage, and the existing driveway does not lead to the east of the house. Additionally, there may be layout consideration given the existing floor plan. It would not be reasonable to separate the bedroom addition from the rest of the living space by a garage. So that's a mouthful, but we're covering several things there. And I guess if I were to try to summarize that maybe in a couple sentences, I would say the only place they could put an addition with a smaller variance would be east of the house, which is where the septic is located and which is not where the driveway goes to. Brian.
Yes, I agree, and based on the staff analysis.
Ken Visker.
Yes.
Ken Anderson.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes. Staff analysis.
Dana.
Yes.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. The applicants indicated No, where our house is located on our lot, it should not impair the locality. So I think that what they mean is that, yes, it will not do that.
Yep.
Staff analysis is that, as shown in the figures below, and those are the pictures of the approximated addition. Houses in the Green Acre subdivision substantially, if not completely, comply with the setback standard requirements. However, it is unlikely that the grant of a single variance would have the effect of an essential character change. The house would remain a single-family dwelling and be similar in size to neighboring houses. Because the existing house is located on a corner lot, consideration of the effective driving sightlines is appropriate. Caledonia Township is the road authority for Knollwood Road, has been contacted regarding the request and did not submit any comment of concern on this topic, and they've indicated here this evening that they do not have concern. The effect of the proposed addition does not appear to create a driving hazard. Ken Visker.
Yes.
Ken Anderson.
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Larry.
Yes, I agree with the staff analysis.
Dana.
Yes, I agree.
Brian.
Yes.
Number 6. The request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district. Permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. The applicants indicated that it will be a single-family home and not in a flood area. Staff analysis is that a reduction in road setback is an area variance. Single-family homes are a permitted use in the residential district, and there are no mapped flood hazards on the property. Ken Anderson?
I agree.
Larry?
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Dana?
Yes, I agree.
Brian?
Yes.
Ken Visker?
Yes.
You voted to accept the findings required for the grant of a variance. I would be looking for a motion to adopt the findings, and we could review any of those, and then,
I have a question first.
sure.
You mentioned in your analysis here that if they add a bedroom, they may have to increase the size of their septic field, drain field.
Correct, yes.
Have you checked into that at all?
We need to have it inspected.
But not enlarged?
Yeah, they may have to, so they would have to,
Depending upon how the inspection goes.
Okay.
Right now, our drain field, we have doubled that since we bought the house. I don't know how long ago that was, but
2012.
we only had 120 feet of drain field when we bought the house. Now we have probably close to 300 feet of drain field. So, per the septic inspection, yeah, if it passes, then if it fails, then we'll be upgrading it. So.
I guess my question is, if they do have to enlarge the septic field and there's not room to do so, then all of this becomes unapplicable, or is it appropriate, right?
well, where there's a will and a bank account with septic, there's usually a way, I suppose. So they might have some options depending on how much they would want to invest in the home. The way the process would work would be with their zoning application for the actual placement of the building. That would need to be accompanied by that inspection report. The inspection would look at, is the system compliant for the number of bedrooms they would have after the addition in terms of drain field size, tank size, and really the entire system. If it is not, then they would have 10 months to address that, from starting with the issuance of the permit that allows the construction.
So how is this enforced, or who makes sure that this inspection is done and that it's compliant before they start to build or whatever?
Well, it wouldn't have to be before they start to build. Again, they would have 10 months to bring that into line. The zoning office does enforce those. We don't withhold the permit. That's not what our ordinance says. But we do pursue folks who have a non-compliant system, or have inspection submitted to us that says it's non-compliant. The inspection itself is done by a private contractor, and they're required by state law to submit to the county the results of that inspection, and then the county is required by ordinance and I believe by state law to follow up with the property owner and put them under that 10-month timeline for the repair, replacement, or whatever is necessary. And they're aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
At this juncture, I'd be looking first for a motion to adopt the findings that we've just created. If you'd like
So
any of
moved.
those reviewed, let me know, and then a motion to grant or deny the variance.
I
I'll
move we
second
approve
the
the
motion.
findings.
We have a motion seconded to accept the findings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We'll be looking for a most, are you gonna give us the conditions?
I don't believe I'm recommending any conditions. No, I'm not recommending any additional conditions on this variance.
Okay. Then we go right to the motion to approve, right?
Right.
So we'd be looking at
Just motion to grant the variance.
it would be a variance of 24 feet from the required setback from a public road. Okay.
I'll make the motion to grant the variance of 24 feet from the township road.
I'll second it.
I think we want to correct that to recommend, because we sent it to the board. No,
Nope.
this is a variance.
This is
we
a-
do, I'm sorry.
Starts and ends
Yes,
with you here
yes,
tonight.
That's right. Okay, we have a motion to, motion and second to grant the variance. All in favor, do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Or did you want to do a individual?
That was unanimous, it sounded
Yeah.
to me, so. Okay. You folks are done, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
We do go back to 8, huh? Okay. You want to read the next one?
Yep, give me just a second here. Please take notice that an application was received from the following persons for a variance of setback. The applicant is Peter Orr, and the variance sought is a variance of 45 feet to meet the required 50-foot setback from the north property line for an existing shed. This is for property that Peter owns in Yucatan Township. A hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room in Caledonia, Minnesota at 6:30 p.m. on January 24th, and we are there. Good. This was advertised on January 9th as well.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to recess the Board of Adjustment meeting and open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and have a motion and seconded to recess the Board of Adjustment meeting and open the public meeting to consider the application. Any other comment, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Does any member wish to recuse themselves at this time for conflict of interest concerning this request? Hearing none, we'll move on. Aaron, you want to present the staff report on this?
You want to have them come forward?
Sure, good idea. Can Mr. Orr move up to the front up here so we can see who we're talking to? Thank you.
So this is a similar issue as come before this board in the past. What we have is a property split that occurred many decades ago, whereby lines are drawn that divide buildings that are located in a single farmyard. In this case, the line was initially put, when Peter first came in, the line was, as shown on Beacon, right through the building. He had some survey work done that moved the line a bit. The proximity of the building on the applicant's property and the buildings on the neighboring property make it so that they don't have 100-foot separation, so you cannot divide those two properties while providing for that 50-foot setback from buildings and the property line. Because of the non-compliance of that setback, I denied a permit he first asked for the reconstruction of a barn, and that is what brought him here today, to seek a variance to bring the property into compliance, thereby allowing a permit to be issued for a different building.
And that's not an issue. That different building is not an issue here,
Well,
or a separate issue.
the Board of Adjustment does not need to address the other building. There is some map floodplain on the parcel, so there might be things that Mr. Orr will need to work through with my office or with the area hydrologist, but I don't believe that they would require a variance.
Okay.
There's a lot of images and text in that staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have and anything I presented there.
So this has been resurveyed now, and the line is determined?
Yeah, when was the most
Yes,
recent survey done?
We surveyed it this past summer to get it, to put the line where we thought it always was.
Okay. Those are surveys for you. And so the lines that we're looking at, the diagrams are actual in terms of setbacks and that sort of thing?
I believe that on page 2, the thin red line there, it represents the parcel line, and I believe that is the updated parcel line. Does that seem right to you?
Yes, because the
Yeah.
original one would basically diagonal through the existing garage.
And as part of that survey, that northern line also had pins or markers of some sort placed. Is that right?
Yes.
So the 5-foot distance we're using here tonight is based on the lines marked by the surveyor on the ground and not based on a beacon measurement.
Okay, good.
So when I look at property line created in 1981, that's not correct. This is the one that was just redone.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have the 81 line anywhere.
Well, it says,
Yeah, on page
that's what's
2.
confusing. It says property line created in 1981, but now I'm being told, I think, that this is...
Right, yeah. Let me clarify.
You don't have an overlay where it shows where it's been changed. I'm trying to figure out where it was
It moved just a
before
little
after.
bit north. Before the correction that occurred with the survey that was done this past summer, that line there would have been just a touch south.
On this page, it shows you the old and the new, I believe.
Which page is that?
It doesn't have a number, but looks like that.
I'm just satisfied that it's been moved and we're looking at the right line.
See, this is the old line, I think, and then this is the new line.
Oh,
Yeah, I
sure.
remember seeing that someplace
There it is
when I
here.
looked through things, yeah.
This, I believe, is the old line, and then this darker one is the
Oh,
new
okay,
one.
they moved it farther. All right, got it.
What that 81 reference to on page 2 is trying to illustrate is that the yellow buildings, those were there when the split was done. So there wouldn't have been a way to, without demolishing buildings, there wouldn't have been a way to draw a line and keep some of those on the applicant's property and others on the neighboring property while providing that setback.
Yep.
Well, and like you said in there somewhere, this was done in 81. It's obviously not being done to bypass the setback law. Is that what you got, Aaron?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot in here. I don't think I touched on most of it, but I'm sure you all reviewed it, and I would be happy to answer any questions, but perhaps the applicant would fill in any holes that I left.
Does the applicant have anything they would like to add at this point?
Not at this time, no.
All right.
No, you have the shed for which a variance is are you process of rebuilding a shed there? Is that what you're,
Basically, I'm replacing the shed that was.
on the existing location?
No, actually, I'm moving it a few feet to come in compliance with the setback.
A little further away from the line?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not the one that's closest to the line, though, correct?
No.
It's
Oh, okay.
south of that. So if you
Okay.
look, it doesn't show up on. I'm trying to find a map that
Well,
shows
that's
up.
what I was trying to figure out, what building.
Is it where the original farmhouse was?
Pardon?
Is it by where the original farmhouse was down?
No,
Oh,
no, it's,
well, it doesn't matter. We're not dealing with that anyway.
If
so-
you look on page 4, on the top graphic that says it's showing the flood hazard area, and that's overlaid over the building in question. The one that he's asking for the variance for is underneath that floodplain layer, just below the northern line, and just south of that building, you can see that there's concrete slab, and that's the area where he's looking to place a new building. That area, or that building on that area, would be 50 feet from the line as it was resurveyed, however.
Oh, so what you're building will be far enough away from the line, property
Yes.
line?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I just need a clarification on that. Thank you.
Unless anybody has any other questions, we'll open up to public comment. Anybody here interested in for or against this proposal?
John Dewey, Yucatan Township Supervisor, and I guess we kind of talked with Peter about this thing, and we don't see any problem with it, so we'd like to see him get this variance, so he can go ahead and do what he needs to do there.
Good, thank you for your information. Anybody else? We don't have any comments on all that information. But now I entertain a motion to conclude the public hearing and reconvene the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second to conclude the public meeting and reconvene the Board of Adjustment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. For the record, has any member visited the site?
I have.
Do you have any comments or information that you would like to share with us?
My thought is there's no harm here. It's one of those splits that we continue to deal with, and aggravates me that we get them after the fact. And I want to go on record to say that somehow we need to come up with a way to deal with these before the fact. And I don't know if that's part of our county proceedings or what, but we continue to deal with this, and I don't know if you guys are as frustrated and aggravated with it as I am, but these kinds of things should be done beforehand. Not that we wouldn't have done it beforehand, because it's probably, from my perspective, doesn't create a problem, but I just don't like dealing with them after the fact. And so I don't have an issue, frankly, with what's being done. I just don't like doing it after it's been done.
I agree, but this was done in '81.
I know, but we're still doing it. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
the county is still doing these splits. Am I right?
Well, the county doesn't split parcels.
No, I know, but the county
the owners.
allows this to happen,
Yeah.
and then we got to deal with it after the fact, and it just,
we don't have a formal review for splits for zoning compliance in place. It's something that I've had conversations with folks about, and I feel like we in the near future will have a way to catch these. We do have a lot of informal channels with a lot of realtors and folks, and we do get a lot of inquiries about the right way to split parcels. And as frustrating as this process is for probably mostly the applicant and also for all of you here tonight, and I'm not having a wonderful time doing this either, so all of us involved doing this, I think, is acting as a deterrent to a degree to prevent future splits. If we don't do this, then there's no downside to going ahead and continuing splitting properties with no regard to the zoning rules. So this is, I think, the first step, but the final step or the solution is a formal review of splits before they're processed.
And we don't need to pursue this. I just had to vent a little bit. It doesn't have anything to do with Peter's business, so let's move on.
Well, I visited the site as well, and I would like to actually, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to introduce a resolution that we vote on to ask the Board of Commissioners to address this proactively rather than having us deal with these all after the fact. And in this particular case, this will also come back to haunt your brother Tim if he ever decides to build something on his property because of this split. And I don't have a problem with this split because you are not the one who did it. But if your dad was coming in here to ask for this, obviously he created the problem, and therefore he would not be entitled to the variance. And this is what happens, is the next generation or somebody else buys the property, probably unknowingly buying a non-conforming problem, and then they have to deal with it. And that's why this needs to be dealt with in a more proactive way. And that's, I think, what Ken was saying. And at the end of the meeting, I would like to introduce that resolution.
I would support that. Moving on.
Any more discussion? No more discussion. We'll go through the criteria for granting a variance.
Same format as before. You'll get two suggested findings. You could subscribe to either one, and if you have a reason other than the reason stated, make that known. Requirement number 1: the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the official controls. The applicant indicated that yes, it is, that this is a family-owned farmyard and we travel freely on each other's property, and in no way will these changes interfere with or restrict the travel and or use. The staff analysis is that a formal review of parcel splits for zoning compliance has not been part of the official controls. The comprehensive plan calls for encouraging rehabilitation of existing homes. When a home is beyond rehabilitation, a logical extension of this policy is to reuse the existing home sites, as this has no net reduction in the productive ag land base. In large part, the 1981 split allowed for the continued use of the agricultural infrastructure and the construction of a new house without reducing ag land in cultivation. Ken Anderson.
Yes, and I agree with staff analysis.
Larry?
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Dana?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Ken Visker?
Yes.
Number 2, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls. The proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. The applicant indicated yes, and stated it would not make any sense to change boundaries to comply with the needed setbacks because there is not enough distance between the building to bring both properties into compliance. Trying to do so would interfere with the current uses of the area. The staff analysis is that the proximity of the existing buildings makes the 1981 subdivision unattainable within the parameters of the setback requirements, as a 100 feet separation distance does not exist. The relocation or demolition of buildings has economic considerations. Many factors may have represented practical difficulties which reasonably contributed to the placement of the property lines in 1981. If a goal was to provide the parcel with outbuildings, slopes present on the parcel, and the parent parcel may have affected decisions, the prevalence of floodplain, and the knowledge of areas susceptible to flooding, limit areas acceptable for future building. Larry.
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Dana.
Yes, I agree.
Brian.
Yes.
Ken Visker.
Yes.
Ken Anderson.
Yes.
Number 3, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The applicant indicated yes, the current boundary was set by my father when he sold land to my brother, and consideration at that time was for the intended use of the property, which has not changed since then. The staff analysis is the variance is requested due to the existing buildings that were constructed prior to county zoning rules. The board should consider whether the original placement of these buildings and subsequent split was done to facilitate a future variance, which would require the variance to be denied, or if the split was done for good cause with the property features in mind, the existing farmstead, natural features, etc., which would allow for granting the variance. Dana.
Yeah, I agree with staff analysis.
Brian.
Yes.
Ken Visker.
Yes.
Ken Anderson.
Yes, there was no other alternative. I mean, the split did not change the usage.
Larry.
Yes, I agree. It was done years ago in 1981, and I don't think that anybody did it for any undesirable reasons.
Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. The applicant indicated yes, the property has not changed in use and is not intended to change in the foreseeable future. Staff analysis is that without removing existing structures or deviating significantly from the existing line location, the required setbacks cannot be achieved. Brian.
Yes, and I agree with the staff analysis.
Ken Visker.
Yes.
Ken Anderson.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. The applicant indicated no, and he indicates family owns property both on this site and adjacent to, and no one else other than family will be affected. Operation will be the same as it has been since the property was divided in 1981. And the staff analysis is that the required setback has not been in place since 1981 with little or no negative effect. The applicant's brother owns the neighboring property and indicates both parties freely travel on the respective parcels. Ken Visker?
Yes.
Ken Anderson?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Dana?
Yes.
And Brian?
No, I think that the fact that it's owned by, both sides are owned by the same family is irrelevant here because there's no guarantee it will always be owned by the same family, and these decisions have to be made with the long run in mind.
Number 6, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection elevation than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by law. The applicant indicated no, use will not change, and building has not flooded since it was built. The staff analysis is that the request is for an area variance. The shed for which the variance is sought is located in the flood hazard area and is considered a non-compliant structure for which there are specific and strict rules regarding use, improvement, and replacement. The granting of the variance will not change this status. And we are on Ken Anderson.
Yes, I agree with staff analysis.
Larry,
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and Ken Visker.
Yes.
So the board has voted to approve all the findings required for the grant of a variance. I would be looking for a motion to approve the findings as we just created, followed by a motion to grant or deny the variance.
Is the staff proposing any special conditions?
I am not, no.
Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion to adopt the findings as stated.
So move.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and seconded to adopt the findings as stated. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Do
I
we
move-
have a motion to approve or deny the variance?
We approve the variance as stated.
We would be, what's reference the request?
Okay.
Variance of 45 feet to meet the required setback from a property line.
Yep.
Yep. I'll second that.
We have a motion and seconded to approve the, what is it again?
A variance of 45 feet from the northern property line to meet the required setback for an existing shed, I guess would be the way we would want to phrase that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wait a minute, I should have said, is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, we have a where am I? We have a motion and a second to approve the request. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, the motion passes. Motion carried.
Okay.
All right.
You're good.
Thank you.
All right, is there any old business? Hearing none. Is there any other business to discuss?
Yeah, I would like to introduce this recommendation to the county commissioners, and I'll read it here. This language isn't anything firm. We can adjust it however you'd like or discuss it, but just as an idea, the Board of Adjustment encourages the county board to take action to limit future land parcel splits that will create situations that violate the ordinance and limit options for constructive outcomes. A significant number of the cases coming before the Board of Adjustments deal with problems created by splits that should not have occurred or could have been dealt with in a more constructive way proactively. Perhaps the Board of Adjustments could have a role in evaluating the appropriateness of these splits rather than attempting to deal with the problems they create after the fact when options are limited. We leave the specifics of how best to create a workable policy to the county board, zoning administrator, and legal advisors. We only ask that you deal with an ongoing problem proactively to reduce the future workload, reduce violations, reduce controversy, and create better outcomes for the citizens of Houston County. I have copies here for everybody.
Okay,
if you wanna
good.
take a look at it.
Are we
Any
open for
discussion?
Is there a method? I mean, do you have an idea how this can be done?
Yeah, there are considerations that are not immediately evident in terms of timelines for different departments that have different functions when property is transferred. But I think that this is something that we've had at the staff level conversations amongst departments about how we might put something in place to review these, and it's also something that many counties currently do, so we can look beyond the borders of Houston County for ideas in terms of how this is handled and what works in other places.
Do you have a list of questionable splits you'd like to look at?
Well, currently, I don't actively pursue any sort of zoning violation that is created by a parcel split alone. I simply withhold permits from that parcel. So you all see folks coming in here asking for variances because they wanted to construct something or build something or needed a permit from the county for one thing or the other. And before I'll grant that permit, I require them to bring their parcel into compliance. So that's
Do you have
why
an agreement with the realtors to make you aware of that?
we don't have any sort of, formal agreement, but we have been in communication with the realtors who commonly practice in this area.
What other counties do?
Yeah, other counties have a formal review process that an applicant needs to go through before either the auditor's office will generate a new parcel ID or the recorder's office will record the document. But both those offices are working under statutory requirements that limit their discretion in what they're doing. So that's what I guess I was alluding to when I was saying that the problem is, it is a more complex problem than you initially think. It's not as simple as simply saying, well, go to the zoning office and have them review the splits before anybody takes any action, because I think
I guess the reason I'm asking these questions, I fully agree with this, but it's so general. Is there anything specific we can ask the county board to do in terms of resolving these issues?
My intent here, Ken, is just to get the county board to take action and create a policy, and it could be that before a deed is registered or approved, that it has to be evaluated for, is it an appropriate split? And if it is not, then some action will have to be taken. That could be dealt with just with the zoning office, or if it's controversial, it may have to come before a board of adjustment or some other kind of action like that, But my intent here is not to lay out a specific approach, because that's not, I don't think, our place to decide. That just to give the county board a kick to get them moving, because this has gone on for 40 years.
I agree, except I'm thinking of some guidelines we could give them. Because if we just encourage them, they can sit and talk forever and not do anything without some specific instruction.
Well, I think given where the county's at right now with the move to an administrator model, we're well situated to take actions that are cross department, where in the past that might have been more of a challenge because there wasn't kind of that unifying role there. So I guess I would agree with Brian that I've looked into this, and I would be hard pressed to tell you, Ken, here's what we ought to do to make this work. I really don't know. So I don't think that the intent of the Board of Adjustment should be to lay out what the solution is, but maybe just to reinforce that this is a problem. If they take action, it's not going to eliminate the time that we spend in these, because you've noticed that many of the splits we deal with occurred in 1989 or 1994 or something like that, and those would continue to have to work through, but we wouldn't be
Generating
new ones.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
I'm fine. I just wondered if there was a plan that we could use, but obviously there isn't.
Well, and I think it'd be interesting to see what other counties are doing, and I suspect the difficulty is, by the time it gets to the county, the participants have looked at it, agreed, said, we're gonna put the line here, and this is how much you're gonna pay, and they've got it drawn up, even possibly by a surveyor. When it gets to the counties involved with it, and I don't know what do you do at that point? Say, no, you can't do it. You got to back up and redo everything.
Right. Therein is the the communication with the folks who are commonly dealing in real estate in the county. Now, any realtor could come in and participate in the transaction, and we by no means have a comprehensive list. But the folks who operate in the area, we are in contact with them, and we do review many proposed splits for them to
so we are getting
get
in front of it
feedback.
somewhat.
Yes, but we're probably not catching every single one.
Do you see any issues with this?
No, I don't, I don't,
Then I move that we submit this to the county board as a resolution, if you will, or whatever you want to call it.
Do we want consensus? Do we have to have a vote?
um,
What do you think?
I don't really know. We gotta, let's take one just to be on the safe side.
All
Well, I think we have to agree on this.
Yeah, I would like,
Yeah, we
I'd
do.
like a vote so that it's saying
just-
that it's a recommendation from
Right.
the Board of Adjustment to the county commissioners.
Right. So I'm recommending we submit this to the county board as a motion.
As Brian stated it.
This
Yeah,
proposal as
right
he
here.
is
We're
written,
looking at
as
it.
is written.
Yeah.
I'll agree, I'll second that for you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to submit this to the county board as our recommendation. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Is there any other business? I'll entertain a motion. to
well,
adjourn.
if I could,
So-
if I want to spend 5 minutes on a quick conversation regarding a policy where I'm just looking for some input. We've got some language in our residential district that limits the size of accessory buildings, so sheds are often one to build, and it limits them to 1,500 square feet, and then it has some other language that talks about that limitation applying to sheds that are used to store automobiles, and Larry knows what I'm talking about here. It's a peculiar way to state it. I have read that to mean that if you want to build a shed in a residential district that's larger than 1,500 square feet, you've moved then into the conditional use realm. If you want to build a shed that's smaller than 1,500 square feet, then that can be done as a permitted use.
Meaning that anybody can just build it without any
Meaning you just need to get a
process at all?
No, there's a
Permit.
process, just a
Still have to
permit
get
from
a
the zoning
permit.
office.
Any
but-
building has to have a permit.
Yeah, no hearing, and a much lesser application fee. In a scenario where we have a 1,500 square foot shed that automobiles will be parked on, with an attached building for a different purpose that will not, have automobiles parked in it, would that additional area that cars don't park in, would that be separated in terms of calculating the square footage for the total building, or would it all be one?
This is in addition to a garage.
Correct, yes.
Well, this allows you to
The
build a
separate-
garage.
Build a garage, but you're talking about maybe slightly larger, so that garage could then also store your snow blower or some of that stuff, or?
No, this would be more like we have a 2,000 square foot building, 1,500 square feet of it is a garage storage as you would conventionally think of that, and then 500 square feet of it is, a poker table and a pool table, that type of use.
Or a shop.
A shop, yes.
Or a place.
And what's the question?
How much? Yeah.
So when I calculate the square footage, so that I'm determining whether I'm permitting this as a permitted use or a conditional use, am I taking the entire square footage of any building regardless of use, or am I looking only at the type of use that's called out in the ordinance as having a limit
And the ordinance suggests that that's for parking cars?
for parking cars or the storage of cars?
Strikes me that they all, any use ought to be considered.
I would agree the entire building should be looked at, just for size.
Okay.
And the conditional use process requires,
Something very similar to a
we're doing
variance
here.
process,
Okay.
yes.
gotcha. Yeah, I would agree that you look at the whole building.
Well, and the reality is that ordinance needs, that piece of ordinance needs to be rewritten.
Yes, it does. It's
It's really confusing.
yeah. Okay, that's all really I needed on that. Thank you.
Whoa, did we have an emotion?
I'm adjourned.
All right,
I'll second it.
all right. I'm not even gonna take a vote.
Get it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. I better get that.